You've probably seen this ad.
Hi, I'm Mike, founder of DollarShaveClub.com. Stop paying for shave tech you don't need, and stop forgetting to buy your blades every month. Alejandro and I are going to ship them right to you.
Dollar Shave Club might have been the biggest direct-to-consumer brand. So let's look at their ads today.
Okay, everybody, listen up. We have a problem. Dollar Shave Club just created their best razor ever at a...
This brand was everywhere. It reshaped the overpriced razor market. It bent Gillette into lowering prices. Customers loved it. So how did it go from this to this? Unfortunately, Dollar Shave Club was broken from the start. This is the rise and strange fall of a Dollar Shave Club. Dollar Shave Club, which I'll call DSC from here on out, was one of the most iconic direct-to-consumer brands. You bought a box with a razor, some blades, and their famous shave butter, and received monthly razors and products in their subscription. But if you go to Dollar Shave Club today, you'll find no subscription, only items to purchase. On their Australian website, you'll see no subscription required. That's a clue to what happened and the problem they had from the start. But to understand that, we need to look at why DSC even worked.
I'm Michael Dubin. I am the founder and CEO of DollarShaveClub.com. If you go to the store to buy razors, you have to drive your car, to fight traffic, then you have to find the razor fortress, which is always locked. You have to find the guy with the key. You get to the register and it costs you $20 or more, and the whole thing's kind of primitive.
The razor market was immensely profitable. Really profitable. Because companies like Gillette came up with a simple trick. Sell the handle for cheap, but design it so that only your blades fit. Then make your real money selling replacement cartridges for years. They sold the handles cheap, then charged $2 to $6 per replacement cartridge, which are dirt cheap to produce, meaning margins are above 60%. It was so profitable that P&G paid $57 billion to buy the company way back in 2005. Of course, the real cost was that breaking into manufacturing required a massive upfront investment and convincing giant retailers to stock your products. Gillette and brands like Schick dominated the retail game, and new players couldn't really get in. These two brands controlled 90% of the men's shaving market. With all that said, you can see why customers love the move by Michael Dubin and Mark Levine, who are trying to figure out how to move a giant warehouse of razors they imported. That's right, DSC didn't actually make any blades. They imported rebadged blades from South Korean manufacturer Dorco. Their Executive 6-blade cartridge was the Dorco Pace 6, sold under DSC branding. But this was really smart, because Dorco blades were excellent. But how do you break into the market? Then came the idea. Dollar Shave Club. Mail razor blades to customers every month for just a few dollars. There was no retail markup, nor the gigantic Gillette profit margins. Customers would pay less, save time, have more convenience, and everyone wins. At least, so they thought. This alone doesn't explain the wild, instant success they had. For that, they needed some good marketing, which luckily was Dubin's background.
Yeah, $1. Are the blades any good? No. Our blades are f***ing great. Each razor has stainless steel blades, an aloe vera lubricating strip, and a pivot head. It's so gentle a toddler could use it. And do you like spending $20 a month on brand name razors? 19 go to Roger Federer. I'm good at tennis.
This is, in my opinion, one of the best ads ever produced. It's funny, it pointed out a common problem, proposed a solution, explained the business model, and really catered to the no-nonsense trend of the 2010s. I think MBAs will be studying this ad for years. Dubin wrote the script himself and then had his friend shoot it all in one day for $4,500. This went live at 6 a.m. and within an hour and 30 minutes, the site was so flooded with orders that it crashed. By the time it was fixed the next day, they received over 12,000 order notifications. Their original supply disappeared almost immediately, so Dubin rushed to hire contractors and import more blades to keep customers supplied. This ad won many awards, including the Best Consumer Video Campaign from Digaday. People loved Dollar Shave Club, and it was growing fast. Online manual blade and razor sales jumped 97% in 2014, grew another 71% in 2015, and rose 31% in 2016. From its very first year, DSE generated over $3.5 million in revenue. A year later, revenue had grown more than sixfold to $19 million, then $65 million. During this time, another competitor, Harry's, jumped onto the bandwagon too. DSE passed $120 million in 2015, then roughly $240 million just a year later. That same year, Michael Dubin sold the Dollar Shave Club for $1 billion. At the time, the company had 3.2 million members and generated $225 million in annual sales, and it raised $160 million in VC funding. It wasn't just exploding though, it was draining sales from retail. For the 52 weeks ended May 14, 2017, traditional retail sales of razor blades, including women's, fell 10.5% to $2.13 billion. By 2017, Dollar Shave Club had overtaken Gillette in online market share, 47% to Gillette's 23%. It was far beyond anything Dubin had imagined. DSE allowed you to skip retailers who always took a cut and get a lower cost, and somehow better products at the same time. It really was a fantastic value proposition. So, how did things go from great to AI ads? Well, for Dollar Shave Club, things were going to get much, much worse. Dubin was still the CEO, but now had to bend to the will of his new overlord, Unilever. You might know that name, Unilever. They own 400 brands and are one of the big consumer products conglomerates like Nestle. But Unilever had big plans for Dollar Shave Club. But first, they had a problem to solve. Even though DSE was generating hundreds of millions of dollars in sales, it wasn't really making money. Even if they had a viral ad, it worked for about a year. After that, they had to compete on regular marketing channels, paid Facebook, YouTube pre-roll, podcast ads, TV spots, and even a Super Bowl ad. Hence how they ate into so much of that $160 million worth of VC money. Soon, competitors like Harry's and even Gillette copied the subscription model. But there was another problem: the business model. DSE was very generous with what you got. How is this a problem? Well, most people don't go through 4 razors in a month. Some might, but many would go through 3 or 2 or some even 1. So customers canceled after stockpiling blades. But that wasn't even the biggest issue. DSE was competing with conglomerates on price. Gillette's grip on the market was slipping, with its US market share falling from over 70% in 2010 to 54% by 2016. But wait, isn't that good? Well, the consequences weren't. Gillette slashed its prices and even admitted on its own website, "You told us our blades can be too expensive, and we listened." Good for consumers, that's for sure. But overnight, Dollar Shave Club's biggest selling point was gone. All they had left was their cool, unique brand. So Unilever needed to pivot. They couldn't raise the price, but the core products weren't doing enough to break even, and that's despite a huge defection from Gillette. In fact, the damage was so severe that P&G erased $8 billion from Gillette's value years after paying $57 billion to acquire it. Unilever began launching toothpaste, cologne, deodorant, and more under the DSE name. But in the process, it stopped feeling like a fun, relatable startup and started looking more corporate. They also moved into Walmart in 2020, which was definitely bizarre to see. The economics of DSE just didn't work. Selling razors for below break-even was great for customers and growth, but not for long-term profit that Unilever wanted. In January 2021, Dubin sold the last of his stake and stepped down as CEO. By then, Dollar Shave Club was already past its peak, and I think he saw the writing on the wall. Subscriber growth had stalled, going from 4 million to 3 million subs. Revenue had flattened. The company that had once disrupted an entire industry was beginning to lose momentum. Even Unilever admitted it. "We have been clear that Dollar Shave Club has not delivered the results we were expecting. The economics of the direct-to-consumer channel changed, and we found it harder to unlock non-razor sales than planned." Dubin himself no longer seemed convinced by the model he had helped popularize. He later said, "But I think brands starting out today would be wise to think, how do they get on omnichannel distribution as fast as they can?" Omnichannel, meaning online and in-store. He realized that this model wasn't sustainable. Granted, he had launched a huge brand and got a good payout, so good for him. But what can you do when the core business model stops working? If you've watched this far, consider subscribing. It helps the channel and means you won't miss future videos. In one final attempt to fix the business, Unilever borrowed a page from Gillette's playbook. They started offering DSC subscribers free handles and packs of blades to try out new, cheaper feeling cartridges. This was after they had totally moved into retail stores, so DSC wasn't much different to any other razor brand. Then, they pulled the Dorco-made executive cartridges and pushed all members onto the new Club Series razors. Customers were unsure where the new razors were from, but they weren't as good. They are floppy and thin. I just cancelled my membership after 8 years. It seems like they are trying to cut costs. They cut me up every time I shave. Cancelled my 6-year-old subscription today. New blades are garbage. Going to see if I can find the Dorco blades on Amazon that everyone seems to like. I also ordered the Dorco Pay 6 blades that are exactly the same as the executive DSC blades, but at a lower price. It was a good run, DSC. All good things come to an end. By this point, Unilever was done. They pulled the plug and bailed out by selling off 65% to Nexus Capital Management. We have made some unsuccessful attempts to move away from our core. Though Nexus partner Michael Cohen had a different view. We see growth potential and will invest in cutting-edge marketing, product quality, and new innovations. Dollar Shave Club will also serve as a platform for additional brands with a similar DNA. Post-acquisition, Unilever moved the brand away from its core values, while also scaling back its investment in product quality. They neutered the voice of the brand. They tried to make it too corporate, and they lost that irreverent on-the-edge humor, and when you do that, you lose the consumer. This is where the brand differentiates itself, in managed absurdity. He was right. DSC certainly lost a lot of its charm, though Bodner may have misinterpreted this managed absurdity. They started cutting costs, reducing technology spend by 40%, then migrating from their own website to Shopify. Then, they moved from LA to North Carolina in February 2025 to cut even more costs. They introduced a Walmart-exclusive college razor line. To bring the brand's humor back, they recruited 23 regular customers to co-create a new ad campaign and spend a weekend at its Order of the Blade creative workshop.
It's Dollar Shave Club's Outhouse Agency! It's the first ad agency that's run by customers, and it's just open for 2 days. This is the main lounge. This is a front desk where members check the phone in. We don't have any phones during any of our creative sessions. We got the bar here. Anytime you want French fries, you can order them right here at the bar. Sir, can I get some French fries?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Play a little pool. We got pool inside, and I'll show you the pool outside.
This video has about 600 views, and the feel here is totally different to the first ad. The original ads by Dubin felt more grassroots, but were laser-focused on a problem. Razors are annoying and expensive to buy. This was more corporate, pretending to be a cool brand. And it gets worse.
What is that? That's the new women's line from Dollar Shave Club.
Why don't we just replace everybody with AI?
I'm unsure if these AI ads came because of this creative workshop or not. But yeah, these didn't go over too well. Fans didn't see it as managed absurdity that Bonner talked about, or putting money where it mattered. They saw it for what it was, cost saving, especially when the razors were now worse. For many, that was the final nail in the coffin. The products were worse, the brand had lost its identity. It wasn't even really a direct-to-consumer product anymore. As of 2025, DSC's online revenue is down to just $43 million. Granted, that doesn't include retail store revenue, but they're only forecasted to see 0 to 5% growth in 2025. You can still buy Dollar Shave Club products today, but the company that sells them isn't the one people fell in love with. DSC was a brilliant idea, but unfortunately, its business model was broken to begin with. There are 2 ways to compete. The first is differentiation, aka being better or different. The second is price, being cheaper. There is a reason it's not recommended to compete on price. But DSC did both of these. So they didn't really have a good path to profitability. Hence, all the weird moves to fix a problem that was built in. There are quite a few brands who dominated years ago and are now struggling. Take Grubhub for example. They had over 70% of the delivery market, but were sold off and are now barely surviving. How do you die after being first and having the entire market? Check out this video to learn more, but until then, I'm Hari, and I'll see you guys on the next one.